What is up, my people? How we doing today? Welcome to another video. Um, Today we're gonna be talking about martial arts. We're gonna be talking about the Philly Shell a little bit. Um, the Philly Shell. I just wanted to say something really quick that I forgot to mention in the last video. Um, and the video before that, because I've only made I think 2 or 3 videos on the Philly Shell, and 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 I keep forgetting to mention this, and but I remembered because I was looking at a fight um between Superfoot Wallace, Bill Superfoot Wallace, and I believe Joe Jackson. I forgot his name. I think it was Joe Jackson or something like that. And the interviewer, or not the interviewer, the commentator said they were fighting, and he said, "Oh, the reason you don't see Bill Wallace use his rear leg, um, or his right leg, is because he's injured. He's injured. He tore a ligament, and the whole story goes that he was about to quit, and then he somebody told him about this way to fight without having to move so much and without having to be dependent so much on his bad leg. And I remembered um, Floyd Mayweather Senior, right? And the similarities with his story and how his story of how he came about the Philly Shell. Um, how those two are similar. Like, I don't know if you guys know, but Roger Mayweather in the got shot in the leg, and he was about to quit boxing. Um, the Mayweathers in general, the Mayweathers, they didn't, they weren't practitioners of the Philly Shell. They were practitioners of they were pure boxers. That's the main style of boxing that they um developed, and the reason I say that is because both of the other Mayweathers, and even Mayweather Jr. at the beginning, were pure boxers. And I don't know if you guys remember, but I did say that the Philly Shell was the anti-boxing style. Um, but so you look at Roger Mayweather and you look at the other Mayweather, I forget his name. Um, they're pure boxers, and they teach everybody pure boxer style. Okay, they teach everybody the pure boxer style. Um, the only one out of the whole family that strictly only practices the Philly Shell is Roger. I mean, not Roger. This guy here, Senior, Mayweather Senior, and he taught it to his kid, to his son, Floyd Mayweather Jr. Money Mayweather, better known as Money Mayweather. Um, and Mayweather created his own style, which is a combination of the pure boxing style, a little bit of a Mexican style, and um, the Philly Shell. And that's how he was so confusing to a lot of people because they didn't know what they were looking at really. Um, but but yeah, that's just something that I saw a connection there because I like looking at patterns, like I said before, and the fact that Mayweather was injured and he came across this style and it helped him, you know, prolong his career a little bit longer. And the same thing happened with Bill Wallace. He was injured, he tore his ligament or whatever. He wasn't gonna fight no more, and he developed a similar style. And some people say it's the same style. I personally think they're very similar. They leave their lead hands down in order to bait that attack. They also surprise people with a flick jab. Um, their backhand protects their face. it's pretty much the same style. And if you talk to Superfoot Wallace, he'll say that there's big similarities between them. And I thought that was interesting. I thought I should share it with you guys. So, but moving on here, guys, I want to talk about wrestling and boxing, or grappling and striking. Grappling and striking, in my opinion, is two aspects of the martial arts that are almost separated all across the world of martial arts. Like I said, we talked about the Greeks, how it's boxing and wrestling were taught to um, to the Greek soldiers as self-defense and just as character building. Um, but then later they were separated, right? And it's just fun to kind of theorize. I'm not sure. I'm gonna ask the question to you guys, pose the question to you guys. Maybe you guys have done more research than I have, but it's just an interesting thing that I was looking at about the masculine aspects of the martial arts and the feminine aspects of the martial arts, the duality of these two things, and you know how you guys might think, or what do you guys think about wrestling being more feminine or being more masculine, or striking being more masculine or more feminine? What do you guys think? A lot of people think that just grappling in general is so physical, and there's so much rubbing of skin with skin, that a lot of times people say, "Oh man, that's just gay," or "That's just very like feminine," or whatever. It's not very manly to roll around in the ground with another grown man. It's just a lot of people see that in these days and think, that's a more that would be probably more of the feminine aspect of the martial arts. And they think striking or punching or kicking is more manly because there's not a lot of touching involved, right? But that's not the way I see it. I see it differently because, just judging by the history and how we know now that um, wrestling was probably the first, or yeah, just grappling arts in general was probably the first um, martial arts invented everywhere. It's a global martial arts, and it's more suited to the human body, right? But like every culture has it, right? And a commentator told me, in one of the comments, he brought that up, and it's true, right? It's true that wrestling was probably the first, right? The first martial arts invented, maybe a little ground and pound as well, because a lot of us, were cavemen, right? Some of us still are, but by the way, guys, I'm drinking this drink that's supposed to be good for you. Something about probiotics. But anyways, getting back to this. Um, yeah. So grappling arts were probably the first, right? But the thing about it that that I think the feminine aspect came later when it comes to the martial arts, is because I feel like a lot of those early fighters or early conflicts were settled with wrestling. But what would happen is a lot of those would end in bad injuries. Okay, because the wrestling we have today is tamed, in my opinion, compared to what we used to have back in the day. If you look at something like catch wrestling, or catch as catch can, I forgot how you call it, but you grab something and you break it. Right, the original wasn't no pins, it wasn't no holds, and you say uncle. There's no saying uncle. At the beginning, it was, I got you. It's gone. Your hand is gone now. You're not gonna use it for a long time. You're probably not gonna use it ever again because um, I don't feel like doctors were that good at fixing stuff. So you got an injury fighting back then, back then it was all grappling. It was over. Your career was over. Whatever it was that you were doing, if you were a chef or whatever, and somebody got in a fight with you, something was or something was not going to be there no more in the future for you. Maybe your leg, your ankle, something was going to be broken. And one of the ways that humans were were trying to develop a way to not get into those conflicts no more was by creating distance between them and their opponents. And they would do this by different ways. One of them was sticks, big sticks, big long sticks. They would sharpen the end of it and stab the other guy with them. But why would you want to do that if you don't have the strength to do it? Because some people are really good at it, I believe. There's always going to be that one guy who's really good at wrestling or fighting, whatever it is. And that guy was cool with it. But then you got the weaker guys, people that you call betas, or even people that you may call women, right? So some females would be like, okay, we got to do something. Because these guys are just coming in, wrestling everybody, just whooping the shit out of everybody. So they started to create, weapons. Well, that's not the only thing. I believe striking arts were started by weaker people. That's my opinion. And one of those weaker people was probably a female. I think a female, and this is my theory, a female was the first person that struck somebody in the face. It was probably maybe a slap or a bunch of slaps. People thought that they were effective in the beginning. This is my opinion. And the reason I believe that is because all throughout China, or not even China, there's other places as well, they claim that the inventor of those striking-based martial arts were females. Okay? And if you think about that, you're like, why would they say that and it not be true? Or at least not be true, but be based on something from the past that was true. You know what I'm talking about? Because a lot of people have said, okay, Wing Chun was invented by a female, right? And people say, oh no, that's not true. But then why would they say that? Why would somebody say that? Because it was probably based on something that was true in the past. Then you look at White Crane style. I don't know if you guys know about White Crane style, Kung Fu style. People believe that was invented by a female as well, right? And I think those ancient cultures like that, even though some of the knowledge may be lost through time, I think it's based on something that really happened. Similar to the story of the flood in the Bible. All cultures have it, right? Which means that even though all of these stories may differ slightly, the main thing from the story is true, and it happened somewhere down the line. We don't know when, but it happened somewhere in the past. There was this big flood, this big catastrophe that all cultures know about, you know? And it's the same thing when it comes, in my opinion, to wrestling and striking and the feminine aspects and the masculine aspects of the martial arts. I think that's how they kind of separate, in my opinion. Um, and I theorize that like I said, the first person that struck someone or that created that distance with their feet, kind of like a boxer, and started jabbing, it's probably a female. And subconsciously, I feel like we know that. Even somebody that jabs a lot, people call them a jab queen. So I don't know. That's my theory, guys. I don't know what you guys think. But I did give it a lot of thought, and I was thinking about it, and I was like, yeah. So I like to organize things, and also look at patterns and try to see, what happened in the past or what I theorize happened in the past, and also what's going to happen in the future. These two types of fighting have been in war with each other for a long time, and one wins sometimes and another one loses, and it just keeps going over and over. It's similar to the yin yang thing. If you get too much carried away with yang, or you know, then yin takes over, and the same thing happens the other way around, right? Like for example, in the UFC 1, we all know that grappling won, right? Why? Because Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. Nobody knew what it was. It came out of nowhere and shocked everybody. It took over. And later on, we got Muay Thai. Why? Because Muay Thai has the best stand up, and they also have good clinch game. You're not gonna be able to put them to the ground. So Jiu-Jitsu guys, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guys, didn't know how to deal with that, so they took over for a while. But then what happened next? Wrestling came in. Guess what? Wrestling are even better wrestlers are even better at standing up and wrestling people on the top and taking you down. You see, but now if we go way back in China, in Japan, and all those places, strikers were taking over. And the reason I believe that is because of what we see on the records. We see all the martial arts that started popping up in China and in Japan and in Europe were striking based martial arts. And you start to see why are so many striking based martial arts popping up? Because they look cool, or because they were actually beating the shit out of some of these grappling based martial arts. Um, and then of course it keeps switching off like that. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Like, and right now it's wrestling. Don't be surprised if in the future a striking based martial arts takes over again. Maybe it's boxing, maybe it's kickboxing. It's something brought up from the past, and you're gonna be like, "Oh, that's the one." It's the same thing with Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson didn't invent the peekaboo. You know, Floyd Mayweather didn't invent the Philly shell. They just brought it back from the past, and people were like, "What? You're supposed to keep both of your hands up." You know, why is he winning? um, that's the beauty about the martial arts. You know, and that's why when somebody says, "Don't ever do this" or "Don't ever do that," I say there's a time for everything. There's a time for the black and the white. There's a time for war, time for peace. You know, stuff like that. But that is going to be it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know your opinion. Like, comment, and subscribe. I'll catch you guys on the next one.